the concept is that I'm trying to make this video on is music AI. And there's my little notebook about it. And I realized I don't have a good summary written down in my book. I should fix that. But music AI is a program I'm trying to make, which would play back your music intelligently. So I used to use the DSi for my music playback, and then I moved on to my iPhone here, and I forgot to start the timer because I'm limited to. Let's do this. I'm limited. Anyway, I moved my iPhone for music, but I realized that I was always going in to build playlists and get songs that I liked, and I wanted to find ways to access the songs I liked and not have to deal with the songs I didn't, so on and so forth. I eventually came up with this idea, or this realization that these players are constantly gathering information from the user, but then not doing anything with it. And what I mean is the information which is inputted into your player is in the form of plays and skips. So if you look at this, this is the music library here. What do I got here? This is supposed to be the whole music library. Okay, yeah. Oh, it's just switching the. Okay, there we go. Got the plays and the skips. Two types of data which the user is providing, which I figured I could make a lot of use out of and make a really intelligent system. And iTunes even tracks it, but not particularly well. So I kind of wanted to. Originally, I wanted to take you along and kind of walk you through what I'm doing. So eventually, I'm wanting to make a program, and the program, plays back the music and does all this stuff. But what I've been doing is I've kind of been designing it and then performing the functions of the program manually within iTunes, and then creating playlists based on this data. So what I've done, I'm trying to forget. I'm trying to remember all of what I covered in the first video, and I make references to it in later ones, and it's just dumb. Anyway, I take the music in the entire library, and let's start at the other end here. And I take everything that has 0 plays, and I stick it into that hasn't been played. And by played, I mean it's been played to the end. And skipped means, in the iTunes terminology, if it's a skip, if you go to the next song, like after 4 seconds, but before like 30 seconds, and then it's a play if you go all the way to within like 15 seconds of the end of the song. And that's actually a problem, because it leaves this whole chunk of the song. So if it's a 4-minute song, you got this end that can be, if you skip here, it's kind of a skip, and if you skip here, it's kind of this play. But all this data in between is not used. And as far as AI is concerned, that's really bad. There's this program called Dragon Naturally Speaking, and I downloaded that and I played around with it for a little bit. And what it is, it's a voice to text transcriber program, and it's really cool. But it uses artificial intelligence to function and to work really well. But the thing is, so when you first download and you first start setting it up, you kind of have to. It doesn't work right away. It has to learn your speech patterns, and you can help it along by answering a bunch of questions and telling it exactly what the region you're from and stuff, so it can kind of start with the baseline of the dialect of your area and so on and so forth. But it has this big learning period where it doesn't really work right until it's kind of learned. And that's the whole thing about AI. AI needs to, if it's real AI, it needs to learn. Now, with the Dragon Naturally Speaking, the learning period is a barrier enough It's a barrier for that program. I never got through it. I never had enough of a reason to go through it, but it was a big barrier. And with that, so your speech patterns don't exactly change. But because the Dragon Naturally Speaking is a learning program, if they did, it could keep up. Because your speech patterns are going to change really slowly. Music, however, your tastes can change very fast. What song, you could get sick of a song, you could just play it, 5 times too many, and it could be overplayed, and you're going to start to want to hear it less. So the rate of adaptability of a music AI program needs to be, really, really tippy top. And so it needs to make use of absolutely every opportunity it has to get data. And so when you have, a program, so I'm being forced to use iTunes definitions of plays and skips until I'm able to make my own program where I can control those variables. But when I'm using iTunes, I'm using this segment of the song and this segment of the song, and every time anything happens in between here, it doesn't record it. Okay, so my definition of the play and a skip is going to be quite a bit different from the YouTube version. So to start off, let's look at this. First of all, if you have a 30-second song and you have a 10-minute song, which of those two songs are you more likely to reach the end of? If you have a 30-second song, you could very frequently, listen to the whole thing before you even get around to pressing the skip button, right? Whereas a 10-minute song, the opportunity you have to skip it is much larger. So what I have for the plays and the skips, I've got a little kind of visual thing here. I don't know if you can kind of see, but yeah, plays, skips, and it's got a curve on it. So if you have a shorter song, you have to, so my play and skip definition is going to be based on play percentage, basically. If you play 90% of the song, it's considered a play. If you play less than that, it's considered a skip, right? But this percentage, threshold changes based upon the length of the song. If it's a 30-second song, you better listen to all 30 seconds if it's going to consider it a skip, because that's an easy listen. If it's a 10-minute song, maybe you only need to listen to 50% of it, because if you listen to 5 minutes of it, that's a lot of listening, and chances are you're going to want to listen to that 5 minutes again. That is something you enjoy. It is something. If you're willing to invest 5 minutes of your time into it, chances are it's something you enjoyed, and you want to listen to it again, right? So it's a moving threshold based upon the length of the song. Also, the first, I believe, I don't know exactly the threshold for this, but I want to have a segment just at the very beginning of the song where it doesn't record data, just so that you can skip and skip and skip and skip without accumulating skips on songs. But I want it to be very small, because there's kind of different types of skips. There's the skips where you skip and you listen and you decide if you want to listen to it or not, and then you skip. And I want to catch those and define them as skips. But the ones where you're skipping and you're not even listening, except to hear, you're just listening enough to hear if it's not the song you're looking for, when you're kind of just seeking, there's skipping and then there's seeking. I want to exclude seeking from my data. Anyway, so what time are we at? 3 minutes. Okay. So that's how I'm gonna gather my data, based on these plays and skips and the time in which you press the button. Or if you don't press the button and it goes to the end. So I've been having, so that's the data, that's the raw data that everything is based on. But then I have to go and organize it. And organizing the data is what a program does. And so Music AI is going to do it and it's going to organize it, and then it's going to do something with it intelligently. So the first thing I got to do is I'm actually going to organize the music into percentage lists based on what percentage of time the music is played and what percentage of the time the music is skipped. But that explained a little bit more detail further down the road. First I want to talk to you about kind of the process. And so what I do I sync my phone up and I get the latest data from my phone based upon my listening. And it actually combines it with, if I listen to iTunes on my computer, it'll combine the two. Anyway, so first thing I do is I go and I grab all these songs that have 0 plays. And I'll grab them and I'll drag them into this folder down here called 00. Bloop. And then I'll go down and I'll find all these songs that have, that have been played once, and I'll drag them into this once played folder and second played folder. So these are all based, this list of folders is based only on the number of times the song has been played. And you can see down here I've got over 20 plays, over 30 plays. It starts jumping into units of 10. And over here at the top, I've got one song that has had 119 plays. And so I do that with all the songs, and I put them in the folder based on the number of plays they have. And I have to do this because iTunes only has single column sorting, so I can't sort by plays and then click skips, and then have it sort by skips next. I can only sort by one. I can only control one column at a time, which is really dumb. But anyway, so I've got this whole list of songs that have been played 0 times. Next, I organize by the skips. Okay. If I organize this playlist by the skips, and I go to the very top, I've got this one song, and I've got it played 0 times, and it's skipped 8 times. So I've got groups of songs that I essentially never listen to. And I made this realization that really your entire library can be divided into songs you do listen to and songs you don't listen to. So let's look at this for a minute. So I've got kind of different thresholds I've developed, or I've put into. So if it's got 0 plays, if it's got more than 3 skips, I uncheck it from this. I can uncheck it, and it won't be synced to my phone. And if it's not synced to my phone, that means A, it won't play, but B, it also won't be taking up space on my phone. And so I've got a different threshold for the different numbers of plays and skips. So it goes, I think once I get around 6 or 7 plays, there essentially isn't any songs left that are skipped more often than they're played. But it's really rather interesting because it ends up that about 60% of the library is songs that you don't listen to. And when I realized that, I was shocked. And doing something about that ended up being something that made a huge change in the listening experience. Anyway, is there anything else I need to say? The next segment is the first one that I recorded before. So I'm trying to think back of what I was saying back then to make sure that we're all caught up and ready to move forward. I think that's what I was talking about. But yeah, that's skipping and removing songs from the list. Okay, here's one thing I did mention. So I mentioned I manually go through and organize the songs based upon the data. So the program, if I was writing a program, it would reorganize the songs live based on, if I skip a song, it would instantly be reorganized into wherever it belongs. But currently, I only sync up my phone and come in and reorganize things maybe once a month. So that's relevant. It makes things quite a bit different, and I can't remember why. I make references to that later, so it's important that I say that now. But yeah, I think that's everything we need to know to move forward. And I guess we'll go right into it. Here we go. Anyway, so when we last spoke about an hour ago, I was talking about removing these files so they don't sync with my phone, with my music player. Okay, so I unchecked the songs, based upon how many they've been skipped far more often than they've been played. So I'm dividing the ones that I don't listen to with the ones I do listen to. Now there's one thing I need to mention, and that I don't actually want to ever remove songs from being able to get new data on them. Because if a song never, ever, ever, ever plays, it never, ever, ever, ever has a chance to get new data, which means that the whole point of AI is learning. And if it's not getting new data, there's no learning happening and there's no AI, and it breaks the whole thing. So, an example, here I've got Goose's theme. What if I suddenly decided, might change his taste, and I decided that Goose's theme was the raddest thing in the whole world, and I wanted to listen to it? Well, first of all, it's already off on the playlist. Let me get back to that in a second. So how this is going to work is, how I will achieve this is, here we go. Here's the cutoff point that I have right now. Everything with 0 plays and 4 skips, cut off. It's out of there. How I'd rather do it, and again, this is the limitations of YouTube, or not YouTube, iTunes. How I'd rather do it is I would assign this so that, okay, things with 0 plays and 4 skips, instead of being unchecked where they sync 0% of the time, I would address it with a probability. Things they would, instead of being synced 0% of the time, let's say that each song has a 50% chance of being synced up. I still get the data savings like I get where I'm having less songs synced on my device, but each song still has a chance of being played. Now, all the way back here up to Goose's theme, it's got 8 skips and 0 plays. So it might only have a 5 or 6 or 10% chance of actually being synced to my device, and an even lower chance of actually playing. So it might take quite a long time for me to have the next opportunity to tell the music AI that, oh, I want to listen to the song. But as soon as I do listen to it once, as soon as the song goes from 0 plays to 1 play, that's a huge statistical or percentage change. And, things can move along very quickly once one step has been made. And so it wouldn't be very long before, Goose's theme could be the top of my list, and I'll be like, oh yeah, I wanted this, and now that's what the player is giving me, right? So anyway, that's Goose's theme there, and I'm still recording. Good. I'm all paranoid now. It's been 5 minutes. So that's that whole thing. The other thing, though, which is kind of going to counter that I didn't mention yet, is, so I actually I cut off all the songs that are 30 seconds or less. And this was decided because this is actually a relatively new thing in this system. Because before, what I would do is I recognized that short songs were not necessarily a very good thing. They weren't very worthwhile. And I'd manually go in and be like, oh, this song I don't want to listen to, this song I do. And for a while I had some like Zelda tones and stuff in there. But over about a year or so, maybe 2 years of doing this, I've been at this for a while. But after a while, a pattern started to develop that told me pretty strongly that without any real exception, things 30 seconds and less, just there's no reason to keep them. There's better things that we can do with that. It's just gonna make it so that the playback quality is diminished when we're shuffling or whatever. Anyway, so we remove that. Remove those. So let's say we're just shuffling songs. We're not doing intelligent playback, we're just shuffling. Look at how much the situation has already improved. We've removed songs 30 seconds and less, and we've removed maybe 50% of the songs, right? Based upon the fact that I'm not listening to them. Literally every time these songs come up, I've skipped them. And 8 skips to 0 plays is a very established pattern. So I've removed 6% of the songs, and the remaining songs I have are songs I listen to. That alone makes playback so much better. But this system is not done. There's a lot more to this. So I'm going to make a new clip here so that my camera currently has I'm recording in HD, and it has a file size limit based on the constraints of the write speed of my SD card. Anyway, here we go. Well, that was a lot easier and simpler than Cam Studio. There was no waiting for it to save or nervousness that it wasn't going to work right. Anyway, here we go. So, okay. My goodness. So, let me show you this. So now the next step in this master plan is now I've got these divided into the number of times they've been played. First step is to remove the junk, basically. Next is to sort them by percentages. So I'll have a folder of songs that have been played 100%, a folder of songs that have been played 90% of the time, folder of songs that have played 80% of the time, so on and so on, so on and so on. And I'm only tracking to 40%, just to make so I don't have to do as much work when I go manually. But if I went automatic, I would go all the way down to 10% because I found that there is still value in these songs. And anyway, so how it works is I've already gone through and done a lot of it, partially thanks to Cam Studio and it dropping me off. So I think we're in a good spot to show you. But anyway, so where I left off is probably a good spot here. So I'm not sure. I think I finished with 7s or 11s. Okay, so where I left off is I was sorting down here in the 12s. So this is 12 plays, and here's the number of skips right here, starting at 3, going down to 10. So I'm gonna be dragging and dropping these songs into this playlist folder based upon their plays and skips. And to do that, I'm gonna be referencing my Excel chart. And this chart basically represents the bulk of what the work that the program Music AI would be doing. And here it's just a chart, but it's actually going to be more complicated, a logarithm or whatever you want to call it. I believe that's the word. So here I'm sorting with the 11 plays. So with 11 plays and 0 skips, it would go to the 100% folder. 1 skip would be 90%, 2 skips 80, so on and so forth. Here's a good example because I'm getting to the point where I'm getting enough plays and skips where that 1 play or skip is not here. 1 play and skip isn't enough of a difference to assign it to a different folder, which gives you a lot better. It makes the data a lot better. So by contrast, let's look up here. So with 3 plays, because of the way the percentage, I can't divide 3 into 10 units, or into factors of 10, without going into decimals, which is not something I can do with YouTube. With my actual program, I might be able to do that and get some better, more reliable data in lower ranges. But with YouTube, with iTunes, I mean, I'm limited to real numbers. So, as you can see, I've got big blank spaces where there's no chance to get data. And what it ends up doing is it ends up making my folder sizes kind of wonky and disproportional. Anyway, other thing I want to point out is you might have caught on here when I was pointing around here. If I play 2 times and 0 skips, that means I've actually played 100% of the time, not 70% of the time. But because two plays isn't enough data to build a conclusive pattern. So I shift the numbers down. This is shifted down by 1, this is shifted down by 4. Partially because when you're dealing with 100s and 0s, those 100% and 0% break math, basically. 100% is basically dividing by 0 on the opposite side of 0, if that makes any sense. Anyway, so it screws things up unless you have a lot of data to verify that 100% is still good. Because otherwise I get a lot of flukes down in these ranges being in 100%. You know, if I could accidentally, by pure coincidence, have a song that plays twice when I'm not paying attention and have it land in 100%, then it'd be playing alongside songs that I've listened to, dozens of times, or, in some cases 100 times. And it will be playing with songs with which it doesn't belong. So I curve it. And this is based upon experience. Me using the system and me making these playlists, and then me realizing that this song didn't fit, and realizing, where it got assigned to it and why. And then I go back and I address it. Anyway, so I'm kind of really hands-on molding this and forming it. And less doing, predictions and assumptions. So anyway, I divide the music up into these lists. So I'm gonna go ahead and start doing that right now. I've got just a few minutes left. I'll go until the end of this recording, and then I'll finish up and then start recording again. So here I've got the 12 plays. So 3 skips and 12 plays lands me in the 80% folder. 4 lands me in the 70% folder. 5 skips lands me in the 60% folder. 6 skips lands me in the 50% folder. And 7 lands me in the 40%. And the rest I can ignore because I can. Because it saves me work. So then I advance my Excel. You can't see it, but I advance that down to the next one. 1s and 2s are 90%. I don't have any 2s though. 3s are 80%. 4s are 70%. 5s, 60. Oops, I don't know if I dropped that or not. Anyway, 6s, 50, and 7s and 8 is 40. Okay, I've got like 40 seconds left. Okay, now I'll go to 14. I think this will be the last one. I'll finish up 14, and then I'll skip and I'll finish the rest of them. Although I should note that here, I might have already mentioned, these I because of the acclimation of data and the fact that the list gets smaller and smaller and smaller the further down I go, I've grouped them into tens instead of into individual, instead of advancing by 1, I start advancing by 10. And over 100, I'm probably going to advance every like 50 maybe. Anyway, there we go. I'll finish this 14 and then we'll be done. So I actually got 100% in here. And this is actually a recent one I just started. This kind of just popped up out of nowhere. This is one of the cool things about this is if I was on my DSi and I was manually picking the songs I liked, I would have never picked this song. It never occurred to me that I really enjoyed it. But because of the way that this works, I found that I do enjoy it. And it surprised me when it started climbing into the playlists and being played more and more. And I thought that was a really cool thing. It led me to the conclusion that sometimes the data can tell you more about. It can get through. The data can see through maybe some of my biases or assumptions about what I like, which is kind of cool. I think it could break one of my hopes. Ultimately, I believe that this music AI system can help people diversify their library and expand their library and really enjoy and want to experience more music. So I think it can be a really good thing for the people who listen to music, the consumers, and also for the producers of the music and everyone. I think it could be a really good thing. Anyway, I'll finish this up and I'll start recording again once I'm done sorting the music. Okay, so I'm not quite done yet, but I'm far enough along, and there's something I want to kind of point out here. So I'm at the over 70% or over 70 plays. And if I look at my chart here, you'll see I only have even 100% and 80% filled out. And if you look, you'll see that once I get I can have up to 3 skips here that still count in the 100% range, and then down to 100%, it's up to 5. So things open up a lot, but once you get to the point where there's this many plays, they're being played this much because they're songs you like, and so there's not as much need to sort them out as far. So here I'm at the I'm actually at the over 70%, so let me adjust my chart here. And so anything between 5 and 11 is 90. And then it goes from all the way up to 18. Oh, wait, I had this all screwed up. Okay. I didn't have that sorted. Okay. So 5 to 11 is 90, and we'll skip because I already duplicated them. And then it goes all the way up to 18 for the 80, and then this one you can just assume to go to 70. It's very rare that you have one that goes outside the range. Here I've got even less songs, and this goes to allows for 4. So this is 100%. Then the next one goes to 12. And then 80, and then let's see, over 90. This one allows for 4. So all of these go into the 100% folder. All the rest of them go into the 90% folder. Oh yeah. Then over 99, let's see, these are getting to the ones that have started to actually decay a bit. They've been played so much, I don't enjoy them as much. And they've, see, all of these have been at 100% at one point. So let's see, let's advance my chart again. So running up to 5 is still 100%. Then all the way to 15 is 90%. Alright, and there we go. I've sorted everything into these folders. Okay. And so, okay, now I'll explain to you the actual mechanic of how Music AI plays back its songs. Okay? So I've kind of got, okay, so think about it this way. I've divided songs into different tiers. Okay, I've got the high tier songs that I really want to listen to, and you know, when you get in that mood where I really want to listen to this song, it's probably in one of these two folders. It's that one song you want to listen to is probably in one of these, and then down here is just songs you listen to less and less and less. Anyway, how it works is so let's say you're currently listening to songs in this folder, okay? So you're listening to the 70% folder, and let's say you just keep listening, and it goes the next song, to the next song, the next song. Music AI is going to go, oh, well, they're enjoying these songs so much they're not skipping. So let's move down a tier and play that one for a while. And then so you'll be listening to these songs and these songs and these songs, and then let's see, you keep skipping and you keep letting it play, and like, okay, well, they're not skipping, obviously they like it, so let's see if they like this, and they go down to 50. But then let's say I start doing something else. I'm getting in my car and I'm driving, and I want a more engaging song. I'll start skipping. When people drive, they tend to skip a lot. As I skip, it'll be like, oh, they want more engaging songs. I'll go up to this list. Oh, they're still skipping. I'll go up to here. And eventually, if you just skip a bunch of songs, you'll end up in the 100% list, and you'll be listening to songs you really love. And so basically what it's doing, it's preventing you from constantly playing the same songs over and over and over again. It's trying to constantly expose you to as much of your library as possible. It's trying to get data for its AI and all this stuff. But in effect, what's happening is these songs in 100%, so it's forcing you to skip while you're playing in your high charts, and it's forcing these songs to be more centralized down in the tiers. While the lower tiers, if you're not skipping when you're listening to them, let's say you're listening to in situations where you're not as critical, and they're being skipped less while you're listening to songs that are skipped more, that's a good way to phrase it, then they're going to be moving up the lists. So it kind of forces everything towards the center, and it's user feedback that divides them to either side. And that's kind of how it works. And so in the actual player, if it was made and I make it in a Raspberry Pi in our program, these changes are going to be made in real time. If I skip this song, bloop, it would be moved to a different folder, and the effect is immediate. The way I've been using it is the effect. What happens and it gets really annoying is, say I get a song that gets accidentally placed into the 100%, which is going to happen. If a song accidentally gets placed into the 100%, I'm stuck with that song in the 100% for a month, unless it bugs me so much that I have to go back and manually change it. But with it acting live, with it live feedback, it really makes this thing dynamic, and it changes really fast. The other thing I want to point out is there's a lot to say once I get to this point. Anyway, one thing I want to point out is, so here's a good example for this. Let's illustrate this with this song here. I played this song. There, Samus versus Rundus 119 times. How much is one play or skip going to affect its percentage placement? It's not going to affect it very much, right? So what if I get sick of this song and I start skipping it? If I'm deriving the percentage based upon its entire score, the more you play a song, the more plays you have on it, the more sluggishly it moves and the slower the AI responds. And to a degree, I think that's good. But once you get to this degree, it's bad. this song is becoming more and more fixed in its tier the longer it stays there. And this is a problem because one of the other goals I want the Music AI to do is to preserve your favorite songs and not overplay them. And so that's a perfect segue into another aspect I want to introduce into the Music AI. And that is another notebook here. That is something I've been calling purgatory. And this is not something I've been able to emulate at all with iTunes. So this is no prototyping, no trial and error. There you go. No prototyping, no trial and error. This is all theoretical right now. But the idea for the purgatory is, I'll just read it. It's purgatory, or I could be referred to as decay. It removes a song from the shuffle pool from a period of time to prevent overexposure. So you have a pool of songs from which you can play, and then you have a pool of songs to which you will not play. When you listen to a song, it moves it into this other folder where it's not going to play from for a period of time. And I'm not sure exactly if it's going to be time-based or it's going to be based on how many plays and skips you've done. And I'm pretty sure that I want to have it so that different songs in different tiers have a different purgatory time. But the idea is, and this is how I'm going to guarantee. So I'm sure you've done shuffle before, and you're like, what the heck? I just played this song. Like, I just played this song. Why is it playing it again already? This purgatory allows it to play again, but it ensures, it guarantees a period in which it will not play again. The exception, though, is, so let's say I'm playing songs from the 100% chart, okay? What if I'm just really rocking out, and I've already listened to all these songs, and I've put them all in purgatory because I've listened to them all. It's not gonna be like, oh, well, I can't listen to them anymore. Once your playlist starts to become smaller and smaller of remaining songs, it'll start pulling stuff from the purgatory early, and it'll even start pulling from nearing tier lists. So, and that's another one of my ideas I want to do with it. There's a lot of other stuff I want to do. Let's look at the. Okay, we're gonna play this major calls. Okay, so here's my. I don't know if you can see my graph there. You cannot see my graph. Can you even see anything? You can see the outline of my book. It's a silhouette. Anyway, there's a few other things. So, all I've talked about so far is AI based only upon the feedback of plays and skips. So, with plays and skips, that's very, very little feedback. I believe there's opportunity to get further feedback. And here's an interesting one that I think is really cool. I would like to, if I get to the point, if this project, which may not turn out to be a project, but anyway, theoretically, if it gets to the point where there's devices that are made, or it becomes part of a phone, I'd like to integrate the microphone for further user feedback to help this system become more flexible and more adaptive and to change and learn faster. And there's two places where I think I can implement the microphone. First of all, I can attempt to make smart playback volume. Because if I can go to iTunes and I can tell it to be like, okay, playback all songs by default at the same volume. It's very difficult for a computer to do that because it does not interpret the volume of sounds in the same way the human ear does. So I can use a microphone and monitor the between using a microphone and monitoring what volume setting they actually have a device at. I can create a database and and start tracking and looking at the volume. I can do smart volume adjustments, which would probably have to be artificially toned down. Anyway, that's one opportunity. But what I think is more interesting is by putting in a microphone, it gives us an opportunity to listen to the person listening to the music. And I can listen for people who are either singing with the music, or stomping their feet, or tapping, or making sounds correlating with the music. And in my notebook, I call that mirroring, or following along. And my idea is, so I want to have. So when I described 5 minutes in, okay. So when I described the way that the music AI plays back, that would be the main program. I would like to assign it different programs for different sorts of listening. I want to have just a normal shuffle. It'll shuffle your entire library, and that'll be nice. And that that one might use the purgatory to help the shuffle operate a little better. I have this main program, which is what I described, but I'd also like to have application specific programs. I'd like to have one for driving, and for driving, and I might call it night driving or something. But for driving, you want to keep your attentiveness as high as possible. I've done driving where I have to use music to help keep me alert and awake. And one really cool thing about going back to this mirroring thing is by listening to the user, I can find what are the songs that really engage them. And if I focus a playlist around that, that'd be really good for driving at night. So I want to come up with a lot of different programs for different applications. Okay. So let's see if I can think of anything else. Just looking for my notebook real quick. Oh yeah, this is an interesting one. Remember the vitality sensor? We got a few minutes here. I thought it'd be interesting to do if you were to integrate, so you can make a heart rate monitor that operates with basically an LED, and it reflects light and it detects your heart rate. I thought it'd be cool if there was a earbud where it shines a light in your ear and is able to measure your heart rate from your earbud. And I think, this is pure speculation, but there could be interesting opportunities to examine the beats per minute of a song and look at the heart rate and try to use that data for playing. Purgatory, data conservation. I think that's basically it. It's pretty expansive, but the actual programming, once I've got this kind of designed, making a program that can do all this won't be that complicated. The hardest thing is going to be tying it in to a player. With the programming I already know how to do, I could really easily make something that is able to automatically divide and sort and do all these basic functions. It's just I don't have what I need to figure out is tying that in with a player and getting data from the player and making it a more uniform thing. But yeah, that's the project of music AI, and that's where I'm going with it. I'm trying to develop it. I've got a Raspberry Pi already I'm going to be using to try to design and build the first live version that is not iTunes dependent, that I don't manually do. I want to have a real automatic thing, and I want to build a couple of them, and I want to give them out to people and have them try them and get their feedback, and I think it could be a really cool project, and and in my experience, here we go. In my experience, the listening to music has been improved, immensely, and the thing is, so whenever I go through and I sort the music, actually I haven't finished yet. Anyway, but whenever I go through and I sort the music and I rebuild my playlists every month for about 2 weeks, it is so sweet. It is so awesome. Then after a while, because it's not learning or adapting live, it starts getting dull again, and it's too static. But every time I refresh it and rebuild everything, it is awesome. Anyway, let me do this really quick. So I've sorted everything into folders. What I actually listen to when I listen is, so when I'm driving and I listen to music, I can't be like, oh, I'm skipping a lot, let me change folder. And I'm not able to do that mechanic live very well. So what I do instead, here we go, combined. So let me wipe these out. Okay. Instead, I'll wipe that out. Just clear these playlists. This is the old ones I'm clearing out. What I do instead is I listen to these combined playlists. So the 100% playlist contains only the 100% songs. So here's what I'll do. I'll put that in there. 90, all 90, 80, 70, 60, 50, 40, 80%, 80, 60, 50, 40, 70, oh, cancel. 70. Skip. I must have put something in the wrong place at some point. 60, 50, 40. So there's some songs that are in the 70 playlist and the 80% playlist. That's okay. 60, 50, 40, 50 is 50, and 50, and 40. 40% goes in the 40. So here's how it ends up. Let's look at this here real quick. 100% playlist has 18 songs. 90 has 89 songs. 80 has 213 songs. This has got 240, 100, 200 or 150. Sorry, 150, 170, and 200. So it kind of it doesn't build over. I mean, it's roughly in the range of 1 to 200, except for these first two lists, which are smaller. The combined, this one's 18 songs, 107 songs, 320 songs, 550 songs, 700 songs, 870 songs, and 1,000 songs. So this 40% playlist combined, this combined 40% playlist represents, look at this, 1/10 of my total songs. And let's see if I look at this. Anyway, so I actually listen. When I listen, I'm actually listening to these combined lists most of the time, and I'll choose them based upon like, oh, if I'm driving. I almost never listen to the 100% now, because it's not satisfying to listen to all these songs all at once. It feels better to listen to them mixed in. So I usually listen to them in the 90%, and then I get a little bit diversity, and then here's something, a really interesting observation. So I found that instead of these being songs that I like less and less, they're songs that I still really like. I just don't want to listen to them as often. And and once I get down to the 60s, 50s, and 40s, I tend to have a lot more environmental sounds or stuff that I really like listening to, but the pace is slower. And anyway, what ends up happening is it's I've observed that it seems to kind of divide it not so much into songs I like and I don't like, but rather the type of listening in which you're doing. And I think that's really cool. The last thing I think I should mention is, what about all the songs that don't fit into a list? Right? What about the songs that have 0 plays and 0 skips? How do they ever get introduced to the system where they can start getting plays and skips and start getting data attributed to them? And currently I address that by just listening to shuffle most of the time. I just shuffle the music whenever I'm in a mood where I don't want to listen to a range in specific. But how I ultimately want to address it is by kind of injecting them into an appropriate spot in this list. So as you start listening to maybe the 60s or the 50s and the 40 lists, it will start injecting here and there songs that are I can't remember the word I have. I think I've got it here. That are underplayed. Underplayed songs will be started to be injected into an area where a lot of songs. Anyway, I don't know where they'll go, but they'll be placed somewhere in the lower ranges, or maybe in the middle lower ranges, in order to get data for them. So yeah, and then okay, one other thing I was talking about how earlier, and I don't know how I moved away from this. I was talking about how these songs that have had a ton of plays get to be more less flexible and less adaptive and move more slowly through the system. So I've been thinking about that, and I think what I might do is have the system only track the last 50 plays or the last 60 plays or whatever, So instead of keeping an entire history of the data of that song, it will only keep a certain range, so that it doesn't. The pace at which it moves is never slowed down past a certain point. But at the same time, I'd still like some use for the entire range of data. Anyway, that's Music AI. That's what it is right now. I really, 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 really want to make the working prototypes devices that I can send out to people and get testing it. And well, that's it. Thanks for watching. Hopefully this didn't end up to be like 2 hours long, but hopefully I'm also engaging enough and I'm talking enough about interesting things to make it interesting. Anyway, that's it. See you later.